All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our special board meeting tonight. Renee, if you would show the 4 board members who are present. And we have Mr. Pavey, Mr. Satterley, and Mr. Hall absent. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We need to approve tonight's agenda with the with the addendum that was handed to us. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addendum, please.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Thank you. That's 4-0. All right. We'll move on to public comments, and I believe we do have a speaker tonight, Mr. Chris Carter. Good evening, Mr. Carter. Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
I just wanted to let you know we have a policy that gives you 3 minutes to speak. At about 2.5 minutes, you'll hear a buzzer, and that's just kind of your indication to wrap things up.
Somewhere, I mean, is it going to jolt
It'll
me
be
or
right
just
there.
Shouldn't
And
take that long.
that's fine. We normally don't address speakers at the meeting, but we'll direct Dr. Mellon to follow up with you after the fact.
That's fine.
And we appreciate you being here.
Thanks. Basically, I'm here tonight because of a recent proposed staff change at Spring Hill. It's been proposed at Spring Hill that they no longer have an office assistant and instead have a full-time school administration manager. This past year, Spring Hill and Maple both each had an office assistant and shared a school administration manager. Looking at the job descriptions, an office assistant's primary function is to provide excellent public relations and customer service to all staff, students, parents, and the general public, where a student assistant manager or administration manager's primary function assists the principal in managing school activities, including supervision of classified support personnel. So they definitely have 2 different roles. I looked at the job description of this of the administrative manager, and really can't see that a school that only has 220 or so students needs someone full-time to assist the principal. To me, it makes more sense to have somebody in the office full-time to help be the face of the school. There's 20 essential functions of the school administration manager on the job description in the Greater Clark website. I compared those to the essential functions of an elementary school principal. Surprisingly, 75% or 15 of those functions are in both job descriptions. So basically, you're going to put somebody in a position that does 5 things that this principal doesn't do or isn't on their essential functions list. Just doesn't seem to me they need somebody full time at a school like that, to do 5 things. Not only that, the requirement for that position isn't even a degree. It's 60 credit hours of college. And it says that they would like to have a bachelor's degree, but it's not a requirement. So, just doesn't seem like it would make more sense to have the office assistant in there full time and keep a half-time administration manager to help going between Maple and Spring Hill instead of having a full-time at each one, just to make it a whole lot of sense. That's basically what it is. Thanks.
Thank you. You beat the buzzer. You beat it. All right. With that, we'll move on into tonight's consent agenda. We have items 1 through 6 and the addendum to the personnel report. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Is there a second? Mrs. Kraft. Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All right. All in favor of approving the consent agenda with the addendum as presented? All right. That's 4-0. Thank you. Next, we have gifts to buildings. Mrs. Kraft, would you like to take that?
No, the gentleman to my right has
Oh,
it.
Mr. White.
She delegates a
Okay.
lot. In Kevin's absence, I'll go through a few of these. There's a lot of individuals on here, but some of the more notable corporate sponsors here is the Walt and Hazel Bales Fund, $25,000 to the theater department at Jeff High, and Parkview Middle School got
$15,000, the final installment of the Charitable Foundation pledge. Communities and schools, $3,500 for summer school supplies. The PTA Thomas Jefferson, $15,700 for iPads, many iPads. Totaling $61,524 in donations from individuals and corporate sponsors. That's impressive. So we want to really thank those people.
So would you like to make a motion to approve the gifts?
I will.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second?
I better second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. All in favor?
I have a
Oh, I'm sorry.
comment.
Discussion.
Well, not really discussion, just with the purchase of the iPad mini at Thomas Jefferson, I mean, how is that going to mesh with our one-to-one? Is that a duplication? Gotcha. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Compliment.
It will complement our one-to-one. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Right. All in favor of the gifts to schools? 4-0. Thank you. All right. We'll move on into action items. We have the approval of the amounts of the surety bonds and the designation of extracurricular treasurers.
Yes, the Indiana State Board of Accounts requires that we have surety bonds on anybody that handles cash. So we have identified people, and based on the size of the school, that dictates the amount of the surety bond that we're looking for. So we're asking permission to go ahead and place these with Ohio Casualty Company.
Is there a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. White. Any questions for Dr. Dykle? All right, all in favor? 4-0. Thank you. Approval of MasterCard and Visa.
We're doing so well on American Express. You gave me permission last year. Now I'm getting greedy and I want to go with the Visa MasterCard system. More vendors that we deal with actually utilize the Visa MasterCard system. So we'd like permission to enter into an agreement with them. Mrs. Lewis has already looked at the contract, made some suggestions, which we've incorporated into the contract. So they will do everything for us. All we have to do is run it through their system, and then I wait once a year for my cash to come rolling in.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. And it's 1%?
Yes. And it depends. It's a little bit over 1% if we pay within 7 days. A little bit under 1% if we pay within 15 days, 30 days. So we'll try for the highest.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? All right, that's 4-0. Thank you.
And just for an example of just from what I'm seeing, we should be getting close to probably $40,000 from American Express in November, December is what I'm anticipating. Free money, as far as I'm concerned.
We'll take free money all day.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have contract approval for survey and design at Thomas Jefferson Elementary.
Yes, we lost part of our parking spaces at TJ, and that was because they enlarged the road there and made the turning signal, or turning lane. We were trying to figure out how we're going to get some of these parking spaces back. The principal wanted the buses to come in the back of the school. The problem that we have with a lot of our schools is we don't have adequate parking facilities to separate the buses from the cars, from the walkers, and places like that. So what we're asking permission to do is we came up with an idea of using the back end of TJ. There's an asphalted road, like a walkway going down to the basketball court. And we wanted to see if we could actually have the buses come up the back road, drop off, and then go out on Charlestown Pike, and that would keep them away from the cars on the other side, on the front of the building. So this is what we're asking to do. We're asking a surveyor to come out, look at it, and then we'll have to hire an engineer probably to come up with an estimated cost. If it's a go, we'll come back to you for it. So this is just for the surveying costs right now.
I make the motion because I make any motion that keeps the buses separated from the cars, yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Questions? All right, all in favor? 4-0.
Thank you.
You're on a roll tonight, Dr. Dykle. Next, we have 2013-14 secondary book rental fees.
Ms. Schellenberg will present that board.
The changes that were made, there were no adoptions for middle school and high school. This year was a readoption. So all the books in terms of textbooks stayed the same. The only changes that we've implemented is number one, an $11.50 fee for the Chromebook project, which is the same as what we did with the elementary. And then the second is the addition of the Project Lead the Way courses, in looking at what the consumable materials that students need for those classes, and that would be a medical detective class at the middle school along with the engineering classes, and then at the high school it's the biomedical and the engineering. At the high school we raised it to $15 and at the middle school to $8 to help us offset the consumable fees. So those are really the only changes.
Medical detective class.
That
Doesn't
is
that sound exciting?
Mhm.
It is at the biomedical class, that'll
Right.
be aligned with the health.
Middle school kids are gonna love that.
And that's all 7th grade students.
They're probably going to learn that real CIS is a little bit different than TV.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. White. Any other discussion, questions, comments? All in favor? All right, that's 4-0. And next we have the Ad Tech contract.
Hey, we've worked with AdTech for almost 10 years, and they are a contractor that really services the entire state of Indiana in terms of filing for E-rate services. They help us with any audit paperwork, and this year they've offered a 5-year option in, and in kind of researching, we don't see E-rate going away. In fact, our E-rate services will probably expand. We did earlier this year in terms of adding lines to Spring Hill because they were a high poverty school. So we'd like to go ahead, and Dr. Dykle and I looked at the contract along with Sandy, and like to go ahead and opt in with this company. They've been of great value to us. And we're talking, we probably see a return of about $350,000 a year.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Second? Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Any questions? All right, all in favor? That's 4-0.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a review of the budget goals for the Education Foundation for the next school year.
Board, just wanted to give you a brief update. We had a meeting recently with our Education Foundation, and we really were looking at the future. What do we need that foundation to do to help us moving forward? If you remember, the foundation has greatly assisted in terms of our AP testing program and our ACT testing program. But what has happened is that we needed to sort of re-look, if you would mind bringing that up for me, the budget. We had to really look hard at expenditures versus revenue. And so the foundation board has voted on the following budget, and I'm asking for you to endorse that tonight. If you will look at the fact that ACT testing, the cost of that continues to escalate, and it's now at almost $68,000 per year. And keep in mind, we're testing all 8th graders, we used to test all 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. Now we're going to test 8th, 9th, and 10th. And the reason is Explore, the ACT Explore test, was given at the 7th and 8th grade level, and we found that it wasn't normed for students at that level. The Explore test is normed nationally for 8th and 9th graders. So we're moving it to the fall of the 8th and 9th grade year. The plan was taken at the 9th grade, and again, was not normed to any national level, so it is normed at the 10th grade level. So regardless, we're not adding to the AC testing initiative, but costs are there, almost $68,000 for that testing program. The AP testing program is about the same amount of money. And so there was no way that we could legitimately ask the foundation to raise, $130,000 to support both of those testing programs. So it was agreed that we would focus them on the AC testing initiative. There's some teacher grants that we award, the foundation awards each year to teachers to support them in the classroom. As you know, there's a contract that $12,000 of the foundation money raised goes to help support Mrs. Bajorquez, who is on our staff, but also provides the logistical planning work for the foundation. And then there's about $2,000 in the foundation budget for different operational expenses. The total is $86,560. Now, on the revenue side, we've had a couple of things that have come up. First of all, if you remember, in the past, there's been a coaches event that usually takes place in the month of June, and there's a golf scramble. And the coaches event, we were fortunate in the past that Tom Crean, the IU basketball coach, would come down and did a tremendous job. He would bring in about $25,000 of revenue just in that one event. And Coach Crean, for a lot of reasons, was not able to come down this year. We also reached out to some other prominent coaches, college coaches in the area, and none of them could make it work either. So that event's off the table. There's $25,000 that we were hoping to benefit from, and we can't do that. The golf scramble is the other major event that we do, and we bring in about $25,000 per year in that. I want you to keep in mind, what we've been raising or bringing in is roughly $50,000 to $60,000 a year. The ACT testing initiative alone is $68,000. So here's what we have to do on a revenue side. I think that our school system has to have some skin in the game. And so we're going to introduce an employee campaign, just like we do the United Way, the Fund for the Arts, and the Crusade for Children. Right at the beginning of the school year, we're going to ask our employees to contribute to this because it is going back to directly benefit our students and our teachers. We're hoping that that could bring in about $15,000. We also would like to initiate a corporate and individual campaign where we're going out to corporations and individual citizens and asking them to contribute to our foundation. And we have some thoughts and ideas to do that. Ms. Bajorquez will help facilitate that. But we're hoping that we could bring in $20,000. We're also asking the board members on the foundation to give us referrals, and Ms. Bajorquez and I will personally go out and meet with these corporate representatives to ask for their support. The golf scramble I mentioned. What we want to do is replace the coaches event with a Hall of Fame employee recognition banquet. Our Teacher of the Year program, we think, could be expanded next year so that each school would recognize a Teacher of the Year. Each school representative would then come forward to a district level committee, and a Teacher of the Year representing our school corporation would be chosen. We also believe that Greater Clark County Schools has been very fortunate over its history to have some very distinguished alumni. And we believe it's time for us to create a Hall of Fame or a Wall of Honor for distinguished alums. And we'd like to choose 2 or 3 of them and honor them at that same event and recognize them for their distinguished work in being great ambassadors for our school system. So it is our hope that that will take the place of the coaches event. We can control that on an annual basis, and we would hope that not only would we have a Teacher of the Year rep for each building, but a Staff Member of the Year rep for each building, because we have a lot of support staff that do great work behind the scenes, and we feel we need to recognize them as well. So each school would have a Teacher of the Year and a Staff Member of the Year. They would all come forward, and then there would be a district winner, teacher, and staff member. They would be recognized at this banquet, as well as the Hall of Fame or Distinguished Alumni. So we're thinking that that's worth putting our time and money in. And then we also have to recognize Bales. Bales has made a $20,000 donation that will be there, we think, on an annual basis. That's a huge help to us right now. So if you look, if all of that works out, we'll raise $105,000 in a year. That may be aggressive because it's almost twice what we've raised on an annual basis. I believe that we can do it. And it's going to take all of us on this board. It's going to take our staff. It's going to take the foundation board. But our kids are worth it, and our teachers are worth it. And tonight, I bring forward to you for hopefully your endorsement this plan of attack for the foundation. The foundation board has already voted to improve this. Now, one other thing, the AP testing program. We're going to cover the cost of that this year. We do get funding from the state for advanced honors diplomas. And so that funding will help us to support our AP testing program. It's not going to go away. We're going to continue to do it, but we're going to have to support it within our own funding sources, but primarily through the honors diploma grant that we received through the state. So that program is not going away. I guess I'm hoping and I'm making a recommendation that you as a board would endorse this plan of attack moving forward.
Is there a motion?
I move. I second Nancy's motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraft, for your motion. Thank you, Mr. White, for your second. Any discussion or questions, comments?
We're probably gonna have more kids in AP classes than ever, so we need to think about that too. And hopefully it'll increase every year. So we need to find a way to increase the funds as well. Because sometimes they take the AP classes, but they don't always get the honors diploma, so that's where we're gonna have to make up the money.
I agree 100%, and if you'd ask Dr. Dykle, he'll agree. One of our goals moving forward, and later I'm going to present some information related to our advanced diplomas and so on. So there'll be a baseline that from this year that we'll establish, and then we'll set goals to increase the number of academic and technical honors diplomas that we do award, because that will help us from a funding perspective, particularly with AP programs. So it's a good suggestion.
This may segue into that, I don't know, we can stretch. Did we ever do any more with that thought that we were going to, when the child gets their diploma, we were going to put what's like up above and the scoreboard or whatever, digital board, what that child was going to be doing with that diploma?
We have collected some information that I'll share with you a little bit later in a report, and it is the goal that that's what we do eventually. To show people, because our goal is not only just do we want students to graduate, as you know, but we want them to be accepted to a post-secondary opportunity. Okay. So I'll share some information later.
Just so that then go with it.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other? All right, all in favor of endorsing the Education Foundation's budget goals? All right, that's 4-0. Thank you. Next, we need to, board, we need to do a little modification of our timing of our policy considerations. I'll let Sandy explain that.
Thank you, and good evening. According to Policy 8300 that was provided to you, you normally approve policies in 2 readings. The first reading at the regular scheduled meeting or the first meeting of the month, and then we have time for changes, alterations, or discussion with applicable union groups. And then the second reading is at the first meeting of your month. Because of the timing of the school starting so early this summer, we are asking for you to vote to modify that schedule to allow us to present it to you this evening for first reading, and then bring back to you for second reading at the second meeting in July, the following 3 policies: the bus conduct, leave of absence, and employee absence policies. So we're asking you to approve setting aside the normal first readings and do the first reading on your second meeting of the month, and then your vote on the second reading of the month. And that is allowed in your Policy 8300. Item 5 states that you may modify this time requirement by a majority vote to declare an emergency need for passage. And since we want to have the policies done and out at the beginning of the school year, we consider this an emergency to get these taken care of.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to make the modification.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions about the procedure? All right, all in favor? All right. So now we will look at first readings, which requires no action on the following three policies.
That's correct. The first one is the bus conduct and transportation rules for students riding school buses. It is a first reading, and this policy's been in place for a number of years, but the last revision was made in 1991, so we thought it was time to pull it up, dust it off a little bit, and see if we needed to make some changes. And we did. We had a team of teachers and administrators that looked at the policy and decided that what we had in place wasn't working. Because if you will remember, there were like 3 steps. If you did this type of conduct, this was your penalty. If you did this kind of type of conduct, this was your penalty. And talking with the principals of the buildings, it's different based on ages. You know, your penalty for your high school kids, for your middle school, and for your babies in your elementary schools, that's different. You know, and so they need to be handled a little bit more independently. They also wanted to be able to have more interaction with the school bus drivers, and to make sure that if the school bus drivers make a disciplinary referral, that those were handled on a more timely basis by the administrative staff in the schools than what has happened in the past. So we have looked at those. We've developed some new policies and procedures. We think this will help overall in the bus conduct. One of the things that we are adding into the policy that has not been there before is the fact that parents that have concerns, bus concerns, or issues, are not to confront our drivers. And sadly enough, we've had some times when parents have tried to climb on a school bus, or wanted to stand at the foot of the steps of the school bus and engage a bus driver in some type of an argument or something. So, I mean, by policy, we will have the right to enforce some type of conduct if, in fact, parents don't follow those guidelines. So we think this is a new protection for our bus drivers. We're pretty excited about the changes. No actions are needed this evening. I have talked with Mrs. Kraft, and I do know that there's a policy language that she would like, instead of it being, and this is on signing the transportation rules, she would like it to be shall result in loss of riding privileges if we don't get those policies back. I think that's an excellent suggestion, and we can add that in for second reading. So if you all have thoughts, considerations, or concerns that you'd like to see added into this policy, or to discuss with me as far as why we have that language in there, please let me know. And that's first reading, no action needed. If you have any questions or comments this evening, I'm happy to answer on that item.
Questions or comments on bus policy, discipline policy? Okay, next.
Okay, the next one is policy 4150.1, 4250.1, employee attendance, first reading. This is huge because we are making changes in our employee attendance policy that have been needed for a number of years, but really just haven't been addressed. One of the main goals of this policy is to eliminate the number of days that employees take off work without pay. This does not apply to anybody that's on an approved leave of absence or an approved leave of absence without pay. We know that happens. So we're not talking about extended leaves. We're talking about those random days when you've used all your annual leave, you're not eligible for vacation leave, or if you have been and you've used all of that, and you just get up and you don't want to go to work. What we have done in the past is, if you go to your doctor or to an immediate care center and you get a medical excuse, we have let you take those days without pay. What has happened just in the past 11 months, we had payroll run a report for us as to the impacts, because we could feel that it was impacting the needs out in the buildings and the kiddos' needs for consistency in their educational process. And we found that just in the past 11 months, 610.5 days were taken off from work without pay for these random days of absences. We need to get a handle on that. Our school year is 180 to 85 days. We need to get a handle. So what we provided to you was the existing policy, and because we were making sweeping changes, we provided you with a separate draft of the new policy. And I encourage you all to take a look at that. What we're going to do is, persons that run out of all their days and they fail to be eligible for, or they don't apply for a leave of absence in accordance with other policies that we have in place, they will come to our EPRC team, and that's our Employee Review Committee, and we will look at progressive discipline to a certain degree. You know, if it's a first offense and there's some justifiable reason, we will give that some due consideration. But we're going to look at a reprimand, a suspension, and then possible termination, because we have to get a handle on these absences, and this is big. Now, what we plan on doing with the bus conduct policy, this policy, and also the leave of absence policies, between now and the time we bring them to you for the second meeting in July, we will meet with the appropriate union groups to discuss this and to let them know what we're looking forward to doing as we move forward to try to get a handle on the absences. Dr. Millen, I don't know if there's anything I'd want to add on that.
I think Mrs. Lewis did a good job. Board, we need our people at work as much as possible. Although we appreciate any substitute that we have, they do not match the level of quality that the permanent employee brings forward. So we want to show a level of compassion for employees who have legitimate issues and concerns. However, 610 days unpaid is an incredible amount of lost productivity for the school corporation that negatively impacts our students. And we have to work together to correct that issue. So we look forward to bringing it back to you, and if you have any thoughts or concerns, please let us know. Our goal here is, we think through the EPRC, we can take each case individually and review that person's individual issues, because there could be some legitimate things that may occur to an individual that has already had maybe some major health issues. They've already used their days because of the first health issue, and now they've had a second health issue that needs to be addressed. So we know there are going to be exceptions, but 610 days is pretty excessive.
Interestingly, when I attended a school law seminar last Friday in Indianapolis, and I was talking with Julie Slavens, who is one of the attorneys for the Indiana School Boards Association, and I had contacted her a couple of weeks before last Friday and asked her if she could provide me with some sample attendance policies that dealt with unpaid absence issues. And her response to me was, well, most school corporations and most employers don't deal with unpaid absences. If you don't come to work, you're fired. And why don't you just do that? And I said, well, we're trying to be a kinder, gentler group, but we still need to get a handle on it. So that's that one. First reading. If you have thoughts or concerns, please let me know.
Could I ask a question?
Ooh, wow.
Wow. Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I love it. Spam right in there.
Ms. Perkins, go ahead and we'll swing
Okay.
on around.
Just a quick question. On meal periods, I noticed that states that the employee may not take their meal period in the initial or final hour of a workday.
Right.
Has that been a problem, or?
At times.
But then it goes on to say supervisors are responsible for scheduling the meal periods. Those two don't really conflict, do they?
No, because the supervisor schedules those times within like an 11 to 1 time.
The only concern I have about that is just in a previous life that I've had, sometimes a person can schedule an appointment at the end of the workday in lieu of taking the whole day off. And I just didn't know if that had been a problem in this district.
If that was the situation, somebody needed a doctor's appointment at the end of the workday and they had scheduled it that and they said, may I work through my lunch to do that, I think that would be handled on a one-to-one basis.
That's
What we're trying to do is avoid people on a regular and continuing basis say, I'm leaving at 3. Yeah.
I'm not gonna have lunch.
Or I'm not
leaving
coming in
3
at 9.
o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying
So
to do. But yeah,
we still can on a case-by-case
Absolutely.
basis,
absolutely.
that,
Mhm.
okay, good.
Mr. White?
That's handled usually building by building.
Okay.
Mr. White, did you have any questions?
Not this time.
Mrs. Graff?
Does this address the Monday, Friday problem that we've had?
Yes, I think there's still a problem for, the excessive absences and the continuation of the pattern of absences. It's in there. Okay.
And Sandy, my comment, if you don't mind, after you've met with the appropriate union groups, if they had any major concerns that's gonna tweak what you bring back to us for a second reading, would you shoot us an email just to give us a heads up on major concerns, questions, comments that might actually change the second reading?
We can either do that by email directly or through the Friday report, so we will do that.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
The next thing that we have, just kind of to move on along as quickly as possible, policy 4150, 4250, and when they're identified like that, it includes both your classified and your certified employee groups. That policy has a minimal change. We added a number 10 on the rules that says random days absence without pay, even with a medical statement, there's a typo there, even with a medical statement are no longer considered excused and will be handled in accordance with policy 4150.1, 4250.1. So we just need to make sure when we're talking about leaves, because these are really your approved leaves, like your maternity, your adoption, your paternity, military, whatever, that it also reaffirms that random days of absences will be handled in accordance with the policy we just discussed. So those are all first reading, no action needed, but if you have questions or concerns about the last one I presented, please let me know.
Any questions? Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
And last on the action agenda is substitute services contract recommendation.
Board, as you have been informed in the past, our contract with PESG, who's been providing sub-services, expires June 30th. When that became, I became aware of that fact, we did an RFP, and both PESG and Kelly Services submitted proposals. We brought a committee of people together to review both proposals. Our HR director put together a comparison document for the committee to review, and the recommendation of the committee was to stay with PESG. We felt that there should be a few conditions of this agreement, and that is that it's a one-year agreement, that there would be an establishment of a full-time PESG employee in our administrative office who would be working from 6 a.m. to 2:30 every day, Monday through Friday, to make sure that if there were last-minute substitute needs, that we had someone who was right here in our own building that could provide the assistance needed to try to fill those spots. There's also been some changes made in terms of the leadership here in the region by PSG. Kim Woodson has taken over in the past several months, and under her leadership, fill rates for teachers have been 97 to 98%, which is very acceptable. Also, there's going to be an opportunity for PESG to hire a new individual to be that direct local contact within our administration building. So they'll have the opportunity to hire that individual, and again, we'd like to treat that individual just like he or she is one of ours, and have a close relationship there to make sure that sub-services are handled properly. The biggest difference between PESG and Kelly was a financial one, as we compared all the proposals, and it was pretty significant. The markup for Kelly Services was 40% compared to 24% for PESG, and financially that equates to about a $100,000 per year difference, and we just couldn't justify that. So, Board, at this time, it would be my hope that you will approve our recommendation for a one-year contract with PESG with the conditions that I've stipulated.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Questions, discussion, comments?
So I just appreciate you and the staff going out and putting out the request for proposals, and so we know what we're doing here, and have a good, it came back showing that they were the best at this time, but we need to know that, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And I think having somebody in the building is going to help.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anything further? All right, all in favor of approving the PESG contract? That's 4-0. Thank you.
And Board, I might mention that both Ms. Woodson, who I mentioned earlier, is here from PESG, and the President and CEO, Mr. Henry Bledsoe is here as well. Appreciate both of you being here and look forward to a good relationship over the next year.
We appreciate Greater Clark County's relationship that we have with everyone here and the kids to use that, what we've been doing, and we'll see the news.
Thank you.
And unless there's an objection from the board, I think we're going to take a quick moment to introduce and recognize some folks that we just recently approved on our personnel report.
Good, thank you.
Go ahead.
So I'll let Dr. Mellon.
If you don't mind, I'll just step out in front here for a minute. Tim LaGrange, can you come forward for a minute? You probably weren't expecting that. You know what? You have to adapt.
Yeah, good.
Tim LaGrange is going to be one of our new assistant principals at Jeffersonville High School. Tim has done a tremendous job in that role as an assistant at Charlestown Middle School. He's been a leader in terms of positive behaviors interventions and supports, which is a tremendous behavioral program. He's been a leader for our district in that regard. He's a tremendous addition as assistant principal at Jeffersonville High School. So welcome aboard, Tim LaGrange.
Not sure.
Welcome aboard, Tim.
Also very excited at Jeffersonville High School to add another young man to the leadership team, Charles Marshall. Can you come forward, please? Charles Marshall, welcome aboard, young man. Charles has been a special education teacher in Jefferson County. Some of what I can tell you about him that impressed me so much is that he'll take on whatever challenge comes his way. He likes dealing with situations with kids that need as much support as possible. And that he has a heart for kids. And when you're a special education teacher, that sort of comes without saying that people who've never been a special education teacher don't fully understand. And I think that you bring the experience needed to come into Jeffersonville High School. You bring a passion and an energy and a heart about you that's going to be a tremendous asset to Jeffersonville High School. So please welcome Charles Marshall.
Mr. Marshall?
And I believe he has a lovely better half that's in the crowd. If he'd like to take a second and introduce her.
Yeah, this is my wife, Patty Marshall. She's a teacher at Ramsey Middle School in Louisville, and I love her very much.
Well said, Charles. I told you he had a big heart. Hey, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for a fantastic husband. Todd Satterley, please come forward. Todd Satterley is going to be our new athletic director at Jeffersonville High School. Thanks, Todd. Welcome aboard. Todd Satterley has been a teacher and a coach in Albany Ford. He also most recently has been an assistant principal at Clarksville Middle School. And no matter who you talk to around here, nothing but positive about this gentleman. And in just my time getting to know him, and really I just had a chance to meet him for about 30 minutes. We had a sort of a second interview process. And Todd is just full of energy and passion for the work that he does, and particularly for athletics. And Jeffersonville High School is a big job, big responsibility, a lot of pride at Jeffersonville High School. As you know, you are a Jeffersonville High School, Charlestown High School graduate, Greater Clark County School graduate. So he has part in Greater Clark, and he's been official both at the high school and college level, basketball official. He helps out at PGA tournaments around the country. Just a few things. So we're just a few things. And in between, he tries to be a great husband and father. So
I have a great wife that will have.
so please welcome Todd Satterley.
Thank you so much.
And Board, the last person, and he was not able to make it tonight because of a previous commitment, but our new athletic director at Charlestown High School will be Chad Gilbert. And as people know, Chad has been a teacher and highly successful basketball coach at Jeffersonville High School. Chad is at a point in his life where he wants to have a different challenge, and he wants to be in charge of an athletic program. And his goal for Charlestown High School, he would tell you, would be that he wants to compete for state championships in every sport, which makes sense because he's won a state championship in girls basketball and was one game away from getting to a state championship in boys basketball. So he has a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and I think will be a great addition in running the athletic program at Charlestown High School. So that'll be Chad Gilbert. And thank you, Board, for your approval.
We have no discussion items tonight. Any board report or request from Ms. Perkins?
Not now.
All right.
We introduced our newest employees. I was waiting to do that.
Mr. White?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Kraft?
I think we're really blessed to have you all. Welcome. We're just really happy that you're here, and let us know if we can help.
I just want to make sure that the public is aware that in July, we will not have a first and third week meeting. Instead, because of the holiday, we're moving our meetings to the second and fourth Tuesdays, so the meetings in July will be on the 9th and the 23rd. And also on July 8th and 9th, 5 out of the 7 of our board members, as well as Dr. Mellon and, is Travis attending? Dr. Mellon and 5 of us will be attending a summer academy, an Indiana School Board Association summer academy. So we'll be driving safely back on the 9th to get here for our board meeting. So just some updates for you there. Next we have a strategic plan follow-up.
Board, I could, as you know, I'm capable of talking for as long as you want me to, and I know the meeting has already been pretty lengthy. Yeah, she's got the 3-minute timer going, and at 2:30, and the buzzer goes off, I have 30 seconds to wrap. And remember, I've had a radio career, and I did have to stay to specific time limits. There's a lot of information here, so let me just try to go over some highlights. Strategic plan document, as you know, you approved this document. It took 5 months of work on the part of a lot of people, and what we did is we met June 6th and did a review, an end-of-year review. And the last column under actual results is what I would like you to focus on. On goal 1 under finance, remember we're working toward that 8% cash balance. We have reduced staff expenditures by about $2.5 million. About $700,000 of that is in administrative reductions, and then another approximately $1.8 million is from teacher reductions, which it's never easy to do, but as you know, we were overspending our general fund budget by over $2 million a year, and we needed to stop that bleeding, and so we're moving in a better direction. Under goal 3, that Greater Clark will be fiscally mindful stewards of all public funds. First of all, I hope that you've seen throughout this year that Dr. Deichel has done a tremendous job on a monthly basis providing fund monitoring reports. He'll do that for you here in just a little bit. It's available to the public. Our budget is on our website. We want to be as transparent as possible related to our budget situation. On goal 4, Greater Clark County Schools will be a significant partner as an economic driver in Clark County. One of the things that Dr. Deichel has done is he already has established an idea of different cash balances in the different TIF districts that encompass our school system. And we've also started to have preliminary discussions and conversations with a couple of those entities regarding the possibility of some dollars coming back to our school corporation. We have a long way to go, but we've at least begun the conversation. And number 5 under finance is that our school system will advocate annually for realistic state funding. We're very fortunate in this area to have representatives and a senator that are very, in my opinion, very educationally solid advocates. And our joint school board group, New Albany Floyd, Clarksville, West Clark, and Greater Clark, there's a legislative committee And on several of occasions, we've met with them, and frankly, some of our input has led to them going up to Indianapolis, and I think we've seen some positive results. They understand it's an uphill battle, but without them fighting for us, we'd be in worse shape. So we're fortunate to have that local strength, and we're going to stay involved. I appreciate all of you and the work you've done in that regard, and know that you have us on a central office level also advocating strongly there. In public relations and marketing, as you know, it is our hope to develop a long-term marketing plan. We've had some communication with a consultant that we hope to finalize here in the next month or so to get that rolling. We've tried hard to showcase our schools. Point number 3, again, we're trying to improve our community perception. One of the best things we've done this year is we had a Premier Week. Over 60 families visited our schools during Premier Week. Over 500 kindergarten students pre-registered for the 2013-14 school year. And another great innovative move on the part of our middle school principals, particularly Mrs. Hasselbring at Parkview, was to ask our elementary 5th graders who are transitioning next year to 6th grade to come and visit the school during the day and invite parents to come along. So now the parents can see exactly what a school day looks like in our middle schools. And there was a perception out there that our middle schools maybe wasn't as favorable to our middle schools as we thought it should be. And I think that perception is changing and shifting because we're getting more people engaged at the buildings, especially during the school day. So I appreciate the work done on our middle school principals' part on that respect. And something that you're just going to start to see the benefits of is we've hired a webmaster and a video production specialist. I've shown you a little bit of his work. We're going to introduce a new website come July 29th. He's very talented, and I think he's going to help put a real favorable image on our school corporation moving forward. Number 2, we'll expand and enhance partnerships annually with families to retain current enrollment. One of the things we wanted to do was get the data dashboards up at all of our schools to show what our schools are doing, how we're achieving, what are we tracking. That's been done. From a safety perspective, we've created a county-wide task force that will be meeting 2 to 3 times a year that will meet and strictly, these are law enforcement officers, these are fire officials, these are governmental officials talking about safety. Travis here, our assistant superintendent, has done a tremendous job facilitating that. And then I've had a lot of listening sessions this year. In fact, I've had 44 staff listening sessions, and I've held 18 parent listening sessions this year, where I go out and just try to spend time listening to what our staff members and our parents are thinking, maybe clarifying any concerns, providing information. I've learned a great deal from those. I think that if we move into facilities and technology, we have completed some surveys at the end of the year. We're still compiling that data, and we'll share that survey information with you as soon as we're able to complete that. But we wanted to make sure we got that accomplished. We wanted to implement and sustain a one-to-one initiative, and board, thanks to your support. We have a 3 through 12, every 3rd through 12th grader will receive a Chromebook next year in the school system, which is a tremendous benefit to our students in our community. We've also hired 3 e-learning coaches to help support that endeavor, and that was a big plus in that respect. We've also, on Goal 2, we were talking about facilities that are safe and of high quality. You board approved an RFP for us to conduct a comprehensive facility study and demographic study. The RFP is due this Friday, so we'll be able to look and see who is interested in helping us move forward in that regard. But I also think it's important for you to know that Dr. Deichel and Mr. Hobgood, our facilities director, have completed a immediate analysis of need, and $49 million worth of need have been identified. It's broken down, and we'll share this report with you later when we finish developing an action plan. but our facilities are in need of upgrade, enhancement, safety, roofs. We're looking at the ability to enclose open concept schools at River Valley, Charlestown Middle, and North Haven. That is a huge safety issue in and of itself. So board, be prepared, because here we're going to have a finance committee meeting here in the near future.
Tomorrow morning?
Thank you. That's very near future. And we're going to start developing some plans to bring forward for you. So I appreciate the work that's been done there. And then student achievement and instruction. Remember, our goal is that we want to increase our graduation rate. We want to make sure our graduates are accepted to post-secondary opportunities. We have a careers class mandatory, 6th and 9th grade, that will be implemented next year. Project Lead the Way, you've heard earlier. We've greatly expanded for pathways in biomedical and engineering. We have a great relationship with junior achievement already that exists, but we're going to grow and expand on that area as well. And I think, yes, is that it?
We're buzzing on.
All right, good. Literacy program, I hear it. That means wrap it up. That means I have 30 seconds. I have 30 seconds. Count it down. Count it down. All right. District-wide literacy program, going to be implemented next year. Our impact program is highly successful. I'll give you a report on that a little bit later. We have STAR assessments that have been awesome, giving great information, and we are doing great things in every level. Student achievement instruction. Thank you, board.
Good job, hey.
I have a comment.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Back to the very first goal under finance, you said that we've reduced over $2 million in teacher expenditures. Is my understanding that was through attrition and not ripping? Is that correct?
That's correct.
I would appreciate if that was added to that result.
Absolutely.
We did
25
not
and a
rip
half.
any teachers.
25 and a half positions reduced, all through attrition.
Right.
And that retirement incentive that you approved was a big help in making that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, under student achievement, which is the committee I serve on, one of the big things we identified was the need to reintroduce and reinforce the 21st Century Scholars Program. And I just read in our new state budget where they are going to continue funding those scholarships. Thank you. So we need to make sure every child in our district at 55% free and reduced lunch rate that's eligible is taking advantage of that, and that we have a mentor, a role model, somebody paying attention and keeping them on track to make sure they understand what they have to do to finalize that scholarship, because there's a lot of requirements, but it's very, very doable. So I'm excited that we're going to re-emphasize that program. It's huge.
And I know that our counselors are very busy, but that is something that I hope that our counselors focus on, that scholarship opportunity.
Absolutely.
Keeping them focused.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mellon.
Thank you, board.
All right, we already did our policy review, so next we have Dr. Dykle to do a budget review for us.
All right, set the timer for
3
3 minutes.
Yeah, you better set one for him.
I'm even taking my glasses off for this one. Okay. In the general fund, we're real close to our projected revenue. We're actually over, and that was mainly because of the impact aid money that we received last month and the month prior to that. So we're looking pretty good there. Expenditures, if you look at May, you'll see expenditures jumped up, but that's because we had 3 payrolls in May, so that's expected. When you look at the bottom line, we're looking at a deficit of about $479,000, $480,000 right now, which isn't too bad compared to where we started at $2.5–3 million. So, you know, we've taken a big chunk out of it, so I'm happy with that. So that's basically the highlight on the general fund. We're doing real good on the general fund. Expenditures are coming down, revenue's there. My only concern right now is to make sure that our property taxes through all the funds, it doesn't affect the general fund, but the other funds, we actually get 100% of our revenue, because that'll help offset those tax caps that we have to pay in the other funds. If you go to capital projects, because there's really no activity in the other ones. Capital projects, again, we're doing real good. We actually got our property tax money early June. I'm not used to that, coming from North Lake County and northern Indiana. They would hold it until the last minute or the last hour of the last day, and then you couldn't get it into the bank quick enough. And they would never electronically transfer the money to us. We had to run down to Lake County and pick it up. Here, I got it like June 3rd or 4th. It's like, what? I'm not used to this coming this quick. But anyway, on capital projects, we're going to be real tight on CPF. We're projecting about a $28,000 cash balance by the end of the year. But really what's killing us is the tax caps, the circuit breaker. We're going to lose $1.5 million. So that's $1.5 million and that we're not putting towards renovation of our buildings. So that was it there. Transportation operating funds, again, revenue looks real good to our projected expenditures. We need to get a better handle on that. We're losing $861,000 projected to tax caps, and once we do that, we're going to see about a $230,000 negative cash balance that we'll have to take out of the rainy day fund. Unless we can make some more changes during the course of the year, you know, maybe we don't need to buy as much fuel, things like that. Bus replacement fund, again, looks really good on the revenue side. As long as we collect 100% of our taxes, we're going to lose projected $106,000 on the circuit breaker, and our projected cash balance is going to be about a negative $182. So that's kind of where we're at right now. In the rainy day fund, we're sitting with $3,709,000. So, any questions? Under 3 minutes, so nobody buzzed me.
Good job making me look bad, Dr. Daigle.
Excellent. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for doing this for us at each of our second board meetings. Since you've been here, I think all of us have a much clearer picture, as well as our public, as to our financial standing. So I know it's extra work, but we appreciate it.
Part of my job.
Thank you. Food Service Annual Report. We get to hear from Robert.
Hey.
Madam President, members of the board, I'm kind of scared to see so many open seats tonight. I don't know if it's just because of me or Tom or what, but...
It's all a coincidence.
I do appreciate the opportunity to stand before you tonight and actually give you an end of year after 3 years of being here. It's nice to have 3 years of data all in one accounting system and really show you the growth and where we are at this point in time. All right, Renee, we're going to be good. Total sales, if you look at, you are good. Total sales, you can look over the last 3 years, we've grown from $4.3 million revenue to just under 4.9. I will highlight that all my 2013 figures are actual figures all the way through the month of May, then projections for the last 4 weeks of the year through June. Some of it we already know. I mean, I know what we've done for the last 2 weeks, and we're just projecting out for this week and next week to finish out the year. But still solid growth year after year after year. Next slide. Total meals, significant growth between year 1 and year 2. Doesn't look like significant growth between year 2 and year 3, but we also have the implementation of the new USDA guidelines. For there to be any growth at all at this point is a significant accomplishment for our school district. I know schools around the state that were down 10 and 20% because of the new guidelines that went into effect. Used to be you had to take any 3 components, it didn't matter what they were. This year we've required the addition of a fruit and vegetable would be one of those 3, and the kids just were very slow to accept it. I mean, it's a good policy by USDA. I understand where they're coming from. We must increase our fruits and vegetables. But if a child just is adamant, I want a slice of pizza and a carton of milk, that no longer meets the meal patterns. So for us to see any kind of growth in that area has been a great accomplishment for us and for all of our buildings to communicate to students, you know, you got to get an apple, you got to get an orange, you've got to get something to make it a full meal. The other thing with these figures, we've all been, you know, we hear it month in and month out, the declining enrollment and its impact. We're one of those programs, when you have a declining enrollment, I can't serve any more meals than the kids I have access to. So when you look at losing roughly 300 kids over the life of these 3 years, you know, for us to continue to grow year after year with a declining pool to grab those meals from, you know, another accomplishment for our program and for the the ladies out in the kitchen, you know, really, you know, Johnny, why'd you bring your meal from home? Come eat with me today. So I just want to highlight that. Next slide, we went ahead and broke down those meals. If you notice, we have lunches at the top, breakfast in the middle, and after-school snacks at the very bottom. All three of those major categories are increasing. Those are all tied to federal reimbursements. Those are all tied to revenue. The only line that's a declining line is your a la carte sales, and that was something the board instructed when we went out for an RFP was we want to transition kids to the type A meals. We want to get them getting a reimbursable meal because that's all the secondary funding that comes into the district. So as we transition the kids away from just getting a slice of pizza or just getting an entree to let's make it a full meal, obviously you lose those a la carte dollars, but that is the increase in lunches, breakfast. And then the after-school snacks, we continue to partner with communities and schools, and those programs have continued to grow over the last 3 years. So that's, you know, another compliment to the district reaching out there. Catering revenue. I mean, what more do I have to say? I mean, it's doubled and tripled year after year. What's not included in this picture, in these reports, is we also have the $5,000 donation. So where it says we've done $30,000 in revenue, that was $30,000 in revenue that came into the district. We also supplied $5,000 in catering above that, so the total for the year was $35,000. Chef Chuck and his merry band of elves worked 154 events this year, so not quite one a day, but pretty close. There were nights, there were weekends. I mean, whatever it took to get the job done. I mean, that's our partnership with the district and our partnership with the community. I can compete with anybody on price. The only thing I can't beat the donation. And so, I mean, I don't want to take that away, but I like to partner with the PTOs and everybody and help them be successful. So that's kind of where we are, looking for those other dollars, like Dr. Dykstra likes to say. Oh, me and Chuck over there. We'll definitely like to partner if we have a chance. The next 3 slides, I wanted to break down support of students, support of district, and support of community. With the support of students, we've been able to increase our universal free breakfast in the schools that have higher than 70% free introduced, so that breakfast is offered to those students at no charge. We've also increased our breakfast in the classroom opportunities. I could bring in a stack of reports this tall that shows if you eat breakfast, you're going to be better academics. That's all about our kids. It's about our district and where we can make it financially supportive for the district. We're going to extend that opportunity. For next school year, we're going to add another school district, or another school. Wilson Elementary has been right on the threshold. We got a breakfast in the classroom grant to support us moving forward with that. So we're going to be able to roll Wilson into a breakfast in the classroom moving forward in support of the students at that school. We've increased fruits and vegetable offerings across all grade levels, you know, particularly at secondary. I mean, we're pushing more produce, more fresh fruits, more fresh vegetables than we've ever had. That's in support of our students. The third part there is we've partnered with schools. Everybody wants to reward students. Everybody wants to honor students. You know, great job, you've done X. We've reached out to show that, you know, we're in support of you doing that, but let's run it through the cafeteria program. Let's feature a favorite meal, whatever it is. Let's run it through the program. Be that partner, be there as a resource. Then we can also control, is it a healthy option? Did it meet the standards? Are we not sending a mixed message of, you got this fast food option for doing great, but here's what we're going to do every other day? I mean, we kind of eliminated some of that. So that was all in support of our students. The next slide was in support of the district. Once again, partnering with the various PTOs. I can't count the chili suppers and the different events that we've done throughout the district this year. And it just, honestly, it looks like a no-brainer. We can offer a meal. We can do it at a very low price. PTOs can turn around, sell tickets to support it. PTOs can make the extra revenue that we see month in and month out on the gifts to buildings. I mean, it's a full circle. We can add an avenue to support that. We also supplied meals for all the staff and student recognition for wellness challenges. We sent groups to the aquatic center. We sent groups to Perrin Park. I mean, we sent groups everywhere, and we supplied the meals for that. So every child that went had a healthy meal for the day of that event. No extra burden on a household to make sure they sent sack lunches there. Also offered no-cost breakfast during all district-wide testing. That's becoming a challenge, not on our end, but it's just coordinating the events on what days, what buildings, when it is. ISTEP makes it easy. The second round of testing in May, I mean, we know when it is. When you get to secondary level, it's hard with the ACT, what day, what building, but we continue because we know it's important. I mean, it's a little bit of a burden on a school that maybe feeds 300 breakfasts a day to go, wait, we're feeding 600 today, what are we going to do? But we believe in it, and we know that that's going to be the best for our students in the district. Finally, support of the community. We participate in the Charlestown, Jeffersonville Halloween events every year. That's just fun for us. I mean, we get to go out, we get to bring Ace out, which is our elementary mascot. We pass out apples, oranges, different fresh fruits, and you see the excitement. They're excited. Kids come up, Mom, I got an orange, and you're going, you got a Snickers 2 booths down, you're happy over an orange. I mean, that says we're doing something in our school. We've also competed and placed at both the Jeffersonville chili competition and the Taste of Jeffersonville. That's just something fun. Chef Chuck loves to compete. He loves to play in a kitchen. I know our first year here, we really brought what we do in our schools day in and day out, and I said, buddy, if we're going to go do this, I want to go after a trophy. Let's highlight our catering. Let's really advertise what we do. We got first place in the chili competition. We got second place last year, Taste of Jeff, but we got third place this year, so we're definitely going after it again. We've also hosted the annual Martin Luther King Breakfast at Jeff High, which that event's just grown year after year. I mean, it was almost a standing room only at Jeff High this year, so I'm looking forward to say, hey, are we going to have to split it up, or are we going to have to do something else as that continues to grow, because that's an excellent opportunity for us to showcase the community on what we're capable of doing. Any questions?
Questions?
Good job.
No, thank you.
Now that you made me hungry, go away.
Actually, Robert, we need you to stay.
Earmark's been a great partner for our school system. You see the data, you see the results. And the management of Earmark has been to be attributed to Robert. He has great team, Chuck, Amanda, outstanding work. But Robert, sometimes when you're successful, other opportunities have a tendency to present themselves within an organization. And Earmark has given Robert another challenge, and he's going to be moving back to Bentonville, Arkansas, which is great for them and not so great for us.
Right.
Robert is a special person. I always sometimes refer to people, he has an offensive lineman mentality, and you can see how big he is. And you can tell that I wasn't an offensive lineman. But you have to have that mentality that they're willing to sacrifice for the benefit of the team. And that's what Robert has done since he's been here. I've only had the benefit of knowing him for 1 year. And Robert, we just can't thank you enough for what you've done for our school corporation. You made a tremendous impact on the people who come in contact with, as well as you give all the great statistics, which we appreciate, believe me. But it's really all about you and the kind of quality that you bring to the table every day. So this is a very small token of our appreciation, but I hope you know that it's very strongly heartfelt from our board, from our central office staff, from all of our employees. It's a certificate of recognition for everything you've done to make Greater Clark County Schools a better place to be. So thank you so much, and we wish you the very best of luck in your future pursuits. Did we all fit into the frame?
Safe travel.
Yeah. Oh, here. I was hoping that forced you to come back, see?
Do we get to vote on this?
Yeah, I wish.
really.
This,
We can,
this is
No.
a tough loss. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. See, that is the other thing, Board, both Robert's family and his wife's family are from in that area. So certainly understand it's a great opportunity professionally, but also to get back around family is also a big draw. So we respect that too. Chuck says no. Chuck's not in favor of any of that.
All right, we have some student achievement updates. Do we have an iStep update?
Yes, it's not going to be very lengthy. It won't be as lengthy as my strategic plan presentation.
No, we have very limited iStep, unfortunately. If you remember, back in the spring, the state encountered a break-in service with iStep and CTV McGraw-Hill. At this point, the count is upwards of 80,000 students who were impacted by the break-in service. Therefore, the state announced on June 10th that they would be contracting with a third party to do an independent review of the results. So they have pushed any results released back to late July as of this point. So we have a lot of parents that received their letters for accessing the parent portal, and we're just trying to get the information out there that as of right now, it'll be late July before we get. I wanted to let you know. That's fine.
I read.
We're very excited. We ran if you remember, we did a partnership with Communities in Schools, ran a 20-hour summer program, if you will, the first week after school was out, and we tested, probably around, I think, 70 students during that program, and we wanted to give you an update. Remember, I read, the purpose is that all students will be reading at grade level by the time they finish third grade. They do not move on. And I think what these results are going to kind of show you is that, we've made this commitment to the additional time, that kids need time. And as a result of the extended time, we are now, with our results, a 92% district for iRead. Unfortunately, the state only operates from the first round of tests where we were right at 86%. So we did make significant gains through the summer and the extra time, and that's how we've got to approach this. It's about what our individual kids need. So if you go on to the next, the first or the second column, basically, or section, shows you the March results, and the schools that are highlighted in green were obviously the ones that hit that 90% mark, which was the state goal. If you look in the right, on the right-hand side, our summer results, we tested, and now 8 of our 12 schools have hit that 90% mark as a result. So we're very happy with that. We have very targeted interventions with these kids, and 20 hours of targeted instruction around reading does make an impact. If you go to the next one, one to just kind of give you an idea of the only kids that are exempted or have the ability to be waived out are IEP kids, our special needs kids. And we wanted to give you kind of an idea of the number of kids that we're talking about. We tested in the spring 808 kids, and 745 of those kids actually passed the exam. So we're left with right around 60, and I say kind of, because we have kids moving in and out all the time. So this data is based on the 745 kids that we have now passed. So that left us right at about 63 kids that have not passed out of the 808. 47 of those kids are exempt or qualify for exempt or waivers. The remaining 19 kids, some of those kids may still qualify. They were either, number one, they've either moved out of the district and we're trying to track them down still. They did not test the summer, or they are in the process of being tested, and so schools, our school psychological services are continuing their testing, which would then qualify those kids for the waivers. So wanted to give you kind of an idea. In terms of known retentions that we have at third grade, we're currently operating at 3. So everyone else is receiving services or in services. Are there questions on the iRead? We threw this in here just because we've not had an opportunity to kind of talk about our technology assessments. About 4 years ago, we began to implement a technology curriculum, kind of K-12, and one of the things that we wanted to make sure of, we weren't able to really afford a broad spectrum of assessments, but we utilized Learning.com's 21st Century Assessment on Technology. And if you look at our 5th grade, this is their 3rd year of testing. So they started testing 3 years ago when they were 3rd graders. And so we've got 3 years of data. This year, if you look from last year to this year, our kids that were in advance at the elementary, we went up right around 8%, and our middle went up right at 8% as well. So we went from 9% to 17% with those elementary kids, who were the same kids, by just stronger instruction, more time in the lab. This is really helpful data for us as we move into a one-to-one. The one big change that we made for this year that I think made an impact, we expanded Learning.com. Not only did we utilize those assessments, but we offered the full curriculum for all kids. And the one thing that we don't have consistently is some of our buildings are able to provide a full-time technology teacher. Some of our buildings are not. So this curriculum through Learning.com at least stabilizes and provides consistency, and we're seeing the results here with that use. So we're pretty happy about these tech assessments and wanted an opportunity to kind of talk about.
Questions? Thank you for the info, Amy. Appreciate it. It's always good to see increases.
I'm looking at the number of that didn't pass and then came back and were tested. You had good luck in getting those kids to come to summer program, and that's great.
We're hoping the intercessions next year.
Right.
Congratulations. Impact.
Board impact data we wanted to share with you. If you remember, we had implemented this in the middle of that last school year. This is that program that's designed to meet the individual needs of students relative to reading and behavior. So the document that's in front of you shows some data end of year, Tier 2, both academic and Tier 2 behavior. And if you look at the first column at the top, you can see we had 1,570 total students involved in Tier 2 academic support. 59% of those showed growth during the period of enrichment. So from the time they began, roughly in the February time frame to the end of May, 59% of them showed growth. That growth is primarily related to the STAR assessment, so it's a standardized measure. And 34% of the 1,570 actually worked their way out of the Tier 2 intervention, meaning they no longer needed that level of support. So it's broken down by school, but I'm just going over to the totals at the last category. Then in terms of number of students in Tier 2 behavior, again, those are looking at kids that have a certain number of office referrals and suspensions. We had a total of 265 of those students that were identified. 69% of them show significant growth over the time of enrichment, and 18% of them worked their way out of the Tier 2, meaning that they had corrected their behaviors. Tier 3 are the most intense intervention students. And so in terms of the academic, we had 766 of those students identified. 62% of them showed growth over the semester, and 37% actually worked their way out of that Tier 3. So those are our most intensely in-need students, and did a great job from an academic perspective. And again, we're using that STAR assessment as a standardized measure to to verify this growth. Then again, Tier 3, that's behavior, we had 140 students. 54% of them showed growth, and 29% of them worked their way out of the Tier 3. So in essence, the impact program is making an impact. And I think as Ms. Schellenberg has pointed out, time is a factor. And our demographics in our school corporation, it's okay that it requires sometimes a little bit more time and attention as long as we get the results that we need. And I think that's what this is showing. Tier 2 and Tier 3 provides additional academic and behavioral supports that go above and beyond the normal time frames in the normal Tier 1 instruction. And I think you can see with just a half a year of the program being implemented, some significant growth. So I wanted to share that with you. I don't know if you have any questions or... You'll see some blank data board. For example, at Jeff High, on the Tier 2 behavior side, and then at New Washington High School, in both Tier 2 and Tier 3, that's relative to their PBIS program. They were not as advanced in those schools with their PBIS and their behavioral pieces as our other schools. So we've had to do a lot more work to bring them up to speed to establish this building level behavioral parameters. And so I think what you'll see here this next year, that they are set up and ready to go as we enter into this new school year.
Is this going to be, is this data going to be presented each semester, or is it just the end of school year?
No, I'll be happy to present it. I would think every semester would be appropriate, and so middle of next year, I'll come back and do a similar report. And I decided it may not be very pretty, but what we try to do is show all of our schools in all of those areas, and I hope that the data is significant, but if there's another way that you'd want it presented, I'd be more than happy to show it to you. And we will use this data as we meet with all of our principals in all of our buildings. As you know, we go to every building every 9 weeks, and so we use this data in this structure moving forward now to help make sure we're monitoring and holding everyone accountable.
This is part of the data dashboard. I'm trying to remember if we have
The
impact information.
this specific data is not, and we're going to be reviewing our data dashboard pieces too to see if how we may need to modify that. So it's something we could look at.
Other questions? Thank you for the update. I know getting all this implemented in your first 6 months here was a stretch, but you did it. You at least got it implemented, and so now we'll just keep growing and getting better. All right. Finally, we have some graduation information.
And board, this is another one of these documents that this is like a first time ever report, and so now that we've created it, we can start monitoring it on a better, stronger basis. There's some consistency pieces that we're going to need to work on at every building. But what you can do is see what we are tracking our graduates at each of the schools, and we have totals to the right, and you can see the number of students in the graduating class, total number of grads. Then you look at the graduates earning a Core 40 diploma, which is the diploma we want all students earn at the very least. And then you have academic honors and technical honors diplomas, which we're trying to raise. Then the general diploma is a diploma, but we're trying to reduce the percentages there. Certificate of completion for those students, special needs students, to me it's a success story when they have a certificate of completion. We want to track the number of students granted a waiver, meaning they did not pass their end of course assessment for Algebra 1 or English 10, but they qualified with other criteria, and we want to reduce that number. Number of students still in school, and again that's tracking those kids that weren't able to quite finish in their 4 years, but they're going to come back. And then the number of students who may be considered a dropout. Now that dropout data we need to revisit a little bit, but I think the trends, and we'll bring this report back to you again, but look at 54% of our graduates earning a Core 40 diploma. I will tell you that our most recent graduate information that's on the IDOE site was 49% earning a Core 40. So there's a significant increase as you look at that. the number of graduates earning an academic honors diploma, it's 26% if you include both academic and technical honors. That is a great increase over our most recent data on the IDOE site. And the percentage of general diplomas is still too high in our estimation, but it's improvement over previous year. And I think that the percentage granted a waiver, last year, if you remember the data we just presented to you, was 11%, and it's at 8. The state average is 9. So we wanted to get under the state average, and so we're definitely moving in the right direction there. So that's one element of this report, and this to me is the power metric of all power metrics, because we want kids to graduate, and then the second part of the report is we want them accepted to post-secondary opportunities. So if you look at that, we broke it down by accepted to a 4-year school, 2-year, trade school, apprenticeship, military, a full-time position in the workforce, and then we did track the number of graduates not accepted to any post-secondary opportunity. So if you go across to the columns, 53% of our kids were accepted to a 4-year school. Accepted to. Didn't have interest in going, this is accepted to. 27% were accepted to a 2-year school. So you have 80% of our kids accepted to a 2- or 4-year school. Trade school and apprenticeship, I was surprised that the number wasn't higher. I would anticipate with our direction down the road will increase those numbers. Military is 5%, and we are proud of those students making that commitment. 6% are going right into the workforce with a full-time position. Now, 13%, that's the other big number that we want to work on. 13% have not been accepted. So now our counselors, we talked about our counselors earlier, they will be pivotal in monitoring this data from the time a student enters high school. And we're tracking this just like the 21st Century Program. Counselors, you're in charge. By the end of a student's career, not only are they graduating, preferably with not just Core 40, but maybe academic honors, but everyone should be accepted to a post-secondary program. Right now we have 13% of our kids, which was 85 students, that technically don't have a specific plan of attack. We cannot allow that moving forward. So this is a baseline for us to work with. But I think you see some significant progress being made. But I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the progress from this year to next year. I've never seen any data in my 5 years on this board that included post-secondary. So I appreciate just having the data, first of all. But it'll be great to see through balanced calendar and impact and all the progress we're making, how much of a difference we'll make next year. So
I have a couple questions, and Amy, maybe you can answer this, but when you look at total number of students in the graduating class, that's the cohort? Okay, so when I look at the 648 graduates and you add to that the dropout students still in school and those students that get a certificate of completion, that adds up to the 648. That the difference between the 703 and the 648, are those, I mean...
I can help, since
Okay.
Here's what we need to verify. I asked each school to give me the number of students in their graduating class at the start of the year. So that first number, for example, at Jeffersonville High School, 467. Now, should have been a cohort as identified by the IDOE. Remember, as you know. Now, 435 graduates, those are 435 students who actually earned their diploma. As I look down the list, the difference between 435 and 467, the students considered a dropout and still in school and certificate of completion, that is 32. So that is what the number represents. We just need to make sure, as I work with our principals, because I just asked them to put this together in the past couple of weeks, that we sit down together and make sure that we're fully on track and we're not missing anything in terms of the numbers. Everything works out right now, but we just want to make sure that we're not missing anything.
This will be, on the DOE website as that pie chart, right?
Yeah, the
Eventually.
yes, the graduates and the graduate information that you see there will definitely be on that site. And so we need to do, I talked about this being preliminary data, because I think we need to get back together and just make sure, because I said the dropouts, usually our percentage of dropouts is a little bit higher. It's only listed at 1%. And if that's the case, that's awesome. I just need to verify with our schools that, because we wanted to agree with the IDOE graduate report. So, and this is the first time I've asked our principals and counselors to do this. And I asked them to do this right at the end of the year. So we may come back to you with a refined final report, but this is based upon their preliminary numbers.
Okay.
Is the trade school apprenticeship and full-time workforce position data just, do we not have it for Jeff High, or was it zeros?
Apparently, they counted 400, and I believe those numbers do add up to the number of graduates. So
Okay.
apparently, they don't have those students trade school apprenticeship. And then the idea of kids, I think there's probably some information there in terms of kids transitioning to full-time. So I just need to go back. It's a pretty big job to try to account for 467 kids. And as I said, it wasn't really fair of me, because from one perspective, in that we didn't start the year with this report in mind. I've asked it at the end of the year. So we'll clean it up, but it does give us a baseline for moving forward.
Good deal. Anything else? All right. We have no public comments on non-agenda. All right. Board comments. Ms. Teresa.
I just love data. I do. I do.
Seems like I heard one of our assistant principal candidates say something like that in their second interview. Anyway. Mr. White?
I'll just welcome again to those that have been with us and are moving into new positions, and those coming to join us. We welcome you and look forward to having you with us.
Mrs. Kraft?
I just want to thank PESG for having somebody in the building, so that we're going to have substitutes in the buildings, and my life's going to be so much easier. Thank you.
All right. Congratulations to all of our new staff members. I think Bill Wilson's probably going to be really, really mad at me for a while. But I'll deal with Bill. He'll be all right. Robert, best wishes.
Yes.
Congratulations. Safe travels. Enjoy your family. So we appreciate everything you've done the last 3 years. And I think that's it. Thank you all for coming and being here tonight. If we don't see you anymore, have a wonderful summer, and we're going to blink and it's going to be the start of school. So, Dr. Mellon?
I've said enough, Board. Thank you.
I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor? All right, good night.